So I'm going to pick up John, who is an atheist, wants to know why patriarchy is a prison and why he thinks it is not. And I have a feeling that this is going to be a spicy call. So I'm going to pull him on now. Hi, John.
Hi, John.
Hi.
How are you?
Hi, John. How's it going? Yes, we can hear you.
Can hear you.
I'm good. I'm good.
Awesome. Okay, so what? John, did we lose you?
Yeah, but the phone keeps cutting off. I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, sorry. We just wanted to know what you wanted to talk about today.
Well, the title. Okay, I got to give you first a heads up. Okay, I got a GED. English.
Okay.
English is my second language also. Okay. So
Okay.
these big words, fancy words, are, in my opinion, not so good in a. I want to have an honest conversation. Okay, that's all I want.
Wonderful.
And when you say patriarchy is a prison, what do you mean?
So what we mean by that is the way that the pretty much every system in the world, especially I would say everywhere, but in the westernized world especially, is greatly affected by prioritizing the comfort, wants, and needs of the men in it. So many times we can see that women are getting paid less. We can see that they're not being treated equally. And it also affects the way that men live their lives as well. They're not able to freely express their emotions and their feelings. They're, at risk of being told that they are insensitive or whatever. There's a lot about the way that the patriarchy presents a lifestyle that is really oppressive. It makes it so that the people who are living within a patriarchy are not able to freely express themselves in a way that they would like to for fear of being penalized or punished or ostracized or for the sake of using like a more like regular word, for fear of being made fun of and being shamed. And that shame is not acceptable. That's life-changing. That is life-altering. It ruins people's lives. So that, I feel like, is like a little baby version of why I think patriarchy is a prison. Erika, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say that historically, by taking a perspective that one gender is superior or deserves to be in the leadership roles to the exclusion of the other, and that has been historically, at least with regard to agricultural society and onwards, there are a lot of, as Alyssa said, needs that get overlooked. There is an immense amount of suffering that is placed not just on the non-in charge gender, but the gender that is in charge as well, right? So like what we're advocating for is not a matriarchy, but we're advocating for an egalitarian society where the wants of everyone are heard and neither the masculine nor the feminine are debased and considered less than. So what I would say is that patriarchy is a prison because it hurts men and women and all those in between alike.
Okay, that was a lot, man. I was trying to write things down while you were talking. You went from one thing, you went to a lot. Okay, the first thing is the first thing I would say is when you say it's just in the West, I don't believe so. Even in the desert,
it's definitely not.
Asia, it's there.
It's definitely not just
in Islam. In a Muslim country, it is there.
Yeah.
Men. Okay, it's not just the West; it's everywhere. Okay, that's the first thing I want to contradict you on.
You're right.
Okay, it's everywhere. It's not just the Western world. Okay. Now,
I said that as well. I said it was.
Yeah.
I said that as well. It is worldwide, but I said mostly in westernized cultures because that's what I know more about. Honestly, I didn't want to like speak on on systems that I don't know enough about to say for sure that they are all,
Well,
worldwide a
but we
patriarchy.
see it every day, though.
Yes.
We see
Sorry?
that every day. We see it on YouTube. We see it on. I like watching the natural things, like how apes go, and so I just watch them and I try to learn from it. Okay, and
Yeah.
I'm like 50-something years old. I grew up poor. I know what hardship is. Okay.
Mhm.
Now the
Mhm.
second one you said this: women get paid low. I mean that's been debated multiple times, and it has been debunked multiple times in the Western world. I don't know
So,
about
John,
the Asian part.
is it okay if we take things one at a time, just for the sake of? I mean, I know we
Yeah,
piled a lot on you.
yeah,
I suppose the purpose was just to let you know where we stand, but I'd like to
yeah,
just get
yeah.
from the outset, from your perspective, just point blank, would you say that
Okay.
the way that the system is structured, with being, in the sense that we would consider it to be patriarchal, right? Would you consider that a good thing, or is your argument that that's better than an alternative?
Well, my thing is patriarchy is what it is. It's what we came up to. Okay, that's it. It is just the way it is. It is just the way it is.
So
Men,
you mentioned a minute
men
ago,
are. Hey. Let me finish.
so-
We both, men, male and female, benefit from it.
Okay, so
Male
let's
and
back up for a
female
second.
benefit from it.
You just said that that is how it is, and that you watch a lot of documentaries with a lot of apes. So the fortunate part is that I'm a primatologist, so I study apes, and I study ape behavior, and I study dead apes, and I study human evolution from previous apes, and all sorts of good stuff. So I would assume that in your frequent amount of time watching nature documentaries, that you've watched a lot of chimpanzee behavior, right? Where you've got an alpha male who's in charge of the troop. Yeah. So humans are about 98.8% similar genetically to chimpanzees. We would agree with that, yes? We're very closely related to them. They reflect a lot of our nature.
Well,
would we agree with that?
Hold up. We do have some similarities. I would agree, but it's not like. Let me ask you this then: if you want to compare us to monkeys, where are the monkeys now? They're out there in the jungle. They didn't build no buildings. They didn't build no nothing.
So, John, I want to back it up though, because the argument that you were making is that we see patriarchy, right, male dominance in the natural world. And what I'm contending with you here is that our closest living relatives are chimpanzees, and they are another ape species called Panpaniscus, the bonobo. And bonobos are matriarchal. They have an alpha female that is in charge, and they are not nearly as violent as chimpanzees. They don't engage in patrols and intergroup aggression, or what we would call like a genocidal condition, where they wipe out adjacent groups and assimilate neighboring females into their own group. They don't do any of that, right? So they are significantly more peaceful, and they're led by an alpha female, actually more like a council, if you will, of alpha females. And so what I'll say with that is they are equally as genetically related to us as chimpanzees are. So we are, naturally speaking, just as related to a patriarchal ape group as we are to a matriarchal ape group. So to say that patriarchy is the natural condition is simply incorrect. Now, when we look to the other primates, we see many other examples of either co-dominance, female dominance, or male dominance, because the natural world is incredibly varied. When you back up and you look at other classes of mammals, it's the same thing. Sexual dimorphism is incredibly varied across the entire animal kingdom, and a study was released just last week that when you survey all of the mammals, it is actually equally, if not more common, that females are the larger sex when we're looking at males versus females. And that goes for social animals as it goes for solitary animals. And so what I'm trying to say is that the natural world is varied and human societies are varied. There is not a single way to structure a society. And I am of the opinion that the best way to structure society is the way that benefits the most amount of people, the most frequent amount of time, right? For lack of a better term, I'm messing it up a little bit there. And that would not be the patriarchal system that you see in chimpanzees, and it would also not be the matriarchal system that you see in bonobos. It would be an egalitarian system that benefits men and women and all those in between sufficiently to make sure that everyone gets their due. Does that make sense?
I kind of, but I would still say that if you want to compare us with monkeys, monkeys are still eating grass. Monkeys are out there in the woods. We built some. We built cities. We evolved a little bit more than monkeys. Okay? And then the patriarchy stood by it. It came up with it. Now here's my other thing. The way wait, let me finish.
Yeah.
I mean,
I agree.
I always let you talk all the way.
Yeah,
Okay?
I agree.
Now,
Go
the
ahead. I
patriarchy,
agree.
I say that patriarchy, it benefits us both. Okay? Because for some reason, like, let's say if you want to go out with your hubby, with your boyfriend, all right? Even in the animal world, the male dominance is not just for what you said, oppressing females. No, it's for defense of the whole thing, of the group. Okay, when other monkeys try and grab the females, he stops them. Okay, that's and with the females benefit from that, because the females chose this monkey as their leader, because I'm pretty sure he would say he's got better genes and stuff like that. That's why she mated with him. Okay.
So
now
John,
she's got an offspring that she has to spend.
That's true in some taxa, but that's not true in all taxa, which is the entire point that I was making earlier, which is that you see variations on the same theme in the animal kingdom. So when you're talking about these monkeys that have an alpha male, absolutely that exists in nature. Just as in nature, you see groups that are dominated by an alpha female, whether you're looking at ring-tailed lemurs or bonobos, right? You have pair bonded species where a single male and a single female defend their territory as a single mated pair. You see this in gibbons and in TD monkeys, and you have polyandrous monkeys, such as our marmoset or our tamarin, where two males will live with a single female and they take care of her every need. And you see polygynous species, which is the opposite, one male with multiple females, right? You see variations on social system all across the animal kingdom. And the point that I'm trying to make is that there's more than one way to skin a cat here. And having a patriarchal system is not beneficial to everybody, and neither is having a purely matriarchal system. Right? You talk about how monkeys that don't have these systems haven't moved to our level. They're not as evolved, right? But human evolution was dominated by egalitarianism until the very recent past. And we certainly did a whole lot of evolution during that time.
I also just wanted to briefly mention that I understand what you're saying, that hypothetically the men would be protecting women, and that would be, I guess, the system that they form. But we live in a civilized society. I don't really need a man to like fist fight for me on a daily basis, but I do actually need to be paid fairly, and I need to be able to make choices about my own body when I would like to, and I need to be able to have the freedom to wear the things that I would like to, and not feel like when I think about the things that women are scared of. They are scared. If you do a survey and you ask a group of women what they are scared of, and you do a survey and you ask men what they are scared of, they're going to be very different things. If you ask a group of women what they're scared of getting hurt and they're getting killed, really. And many times not many times, women are, the discrepancy in size is not in our favor, because we are not in a civilized we are in a civilized society. So men are not defending women like that every day, but there are men who are extremely violent towards women and have extremely violent relationships towards women, and that's what women are scared of. And then on top of that, we are very likely to not be believed when those things are reported, because the people that we are reporting them to are also men, and they want to protect their fellow man. And so it's more than the physical aspect of it. It is this now allegiance between all of these other men too, in a system that favors men and wants to prioritize their safety and their comfort over mine. And so, you know, even a good example, I think a very small but good example is, I'm a sex coach, I'm a sex educator. So a lot of the things that I read about are related to sex education. So I know that there is a very large budget that goes to the use of Viagra, and it is covered by insurance. And Viagra is used to treat erectile dysfunction, which erectile dysfunction could also be, by the way, an indication of a lot of other things. It can even be an indication of a potential heart attack. So if in the event that anybody is listening and they are experiencing some ED, please investigate with like a cardiovascular testing of some kind. That's just an aside. But I know that those needs are going to be met for men. When they try to create that same medication for women, insurance didn't cover it. And that to me is really interesting, because why would the pleasure of a man be prioritized over a woman wanting to also experience pleasure and desire and all of these things? And that's not going to be prioritized. It's not going to be covered by insurance, and they're going to have to figure out a different way around it. It's things like that. It's not just in the sense of wanting somebody to physically defend me. It's in every aspect of my life. Even in something as small as when I buy a shaving razor, like to shave my legs or whatever, it is significantly more expensive for a razor that is branded towards women because of something called the pink tax. They add an extra percentage because they're going to make my razor pink and they're going to market it towards women. But I could buy a better quality razor and spend a lot less money on it when it's marketed towards men. And so it's in every single aspect of our lives. Men are being made more comfortable. Their needs are being prioritized. So I don't really care that if there was a fist fight, which, if I'm being honest, was probably started by men anyway. I don't really give a crap that a man was going to defend me, because they also probably started it. And at the end of the day, when I walk away from that fight, I still am going to see and feel the effects of the patriarchy in every aspect of my life, as does everybody else, including men.
That was a lot. I can't
I know. I'm sorry.
touch on everything.
I'm sorry.
That you said, okay. That's why I guess you would say patriarchy is a prison. That's why, because you got so much more other than patriarchy involved in it. Okay.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about the patriarchy. Unless the matriarchy want to step up and play their game, it ain't gonna change. It is what it is. Men built this civilization. Men, okay? Men built this civilization.
That's also just not
that's
true,
how
though.
it is.
Like,
Yes,
I'm
it
sure you appreciate that. Sure, go ahead.
Let me ask you a question. When you go out on a construction building, you look up how many men and how many females are in there building. Maybe
I don't know.
maybe
I think
5 out of 100.
Is that the end of the point?
Maybe
Because
2
you could do
out of 5
you
out of
could do
100.
the same, John, you could do the same thing with any profession that's female dominated. You could say, when you go in to get your blood drawn, how many phlebotomists are men? You could say how many
that's why
doctors. Say how many veterinarians are men, or how many, pick any profession has a female domination.
male and females, that's why I say both benefit from it. Okay? That's why I say
Right, but
male
there's
and
a
female both benefit.
critical
But-
portion here, because the patriarchy that exists today is a muted version of the one that existed 50 years ago or 100 years ago. And the amount of female doctors and the amount of female veterinarians that exist today was not the same 50 or 100 years ago. There were very few, because for the most part, women weren't allowed to go to medical school or to go to veterinary school or to go study physics, right? I mean, one of the very first doctors to get their medical license had to masquerade as a man, right? Like you've got Elizabeth Blackwell fighting tooth and nail to be taken seriously as a medical professional. And now, once that gate opened and women were allowed into these fields, now they dominate them, right? So what I'm saying is, what we're arguing for, as you mentioned earlier, like the matriarchy better step up. I don't want a matriarchy. I don't think that it's better for women to be in charge. I think that both men and women and anybody in between needs to be represented in the society in which they live. Whether that's men, whether that's women, right? Historically speaking, it's been both. And neither of these societies adequately dealt with the needs of every one of their constituents. It's not an ideal society to live in. And I think that we as humans living in this modern era should strive for the ideal. Now, you mentioned earlier that women or that men built society, right? First of all, if you want to go back in time and look at any of these ancient monuments or civilizations that have been built, they were throwing human lives at them to make them happen. And the gender of the individual did not matter, right? Building the pyramids, there's male and female corvée laborers working on that. Stonehenge, same situation, right? It's from the ground up a class issue more than it is a gender issue, and it has been that way since the dawn of time. Now, I'm married, right? So do I like the idea of my husband being like defensive or like wanting to defend me? Sure, because he's my spouse and I would defend him as well. I would do my best to defend my husband if for whatever reason he was getting beat up by somebody. But as Alyssa said, we don't live in a society that is built upon beating the crap out of each other with our fists. And as I mentioned to a caller earlier today, if you look to the natural world, even in species where males are larger than females, females can still deal serious damage to males because they live in groups with one another. So no matter which perspective you're coming from here about justifying the patriarchal system, whether it's natural, nope, not always. Whether it's men built society, nope, not the case. Whether it's better for men and women, nope, it's not. Because as we've seen patriarchal constraints relax, we've seen women grow happier, expand into jobs that they didn't previously have, and overall, society as a whole flourishes because you've got more smart people working on more projects across the globe. And as the last thing I'll mention, in my anecdotal experience, a place that I've experienced, patriarchy or what I would like to call medical misogyny, if you go to your gynecologist and you get like an IUD insertion, you won't get any kind of medication for that. They tell you to take 2 ibuprofen, 800 milligrams of ibuprofen, and come in for that procedure. And that procedure involves sounding the cervix and inserting a device into the uterus that is immensely painful. Whereas one of my coworkers' husbands had a vasectomy and he got prescribed every painkiller under the sun for that. I don't believe that that's right. I think that is another area in which we see a whole lot of attention paid to men in general and not so much in women. And there's an excellent book out there. The name of it is slipping my mind now. I got it from the library. I don't actually have it on my shelves, but it specifically looks at the difference in how average over-the-counter medications impact men versus women because all the testing was done on men. No one doing these medical testing for ibuprofen or aspirin or Zoloft or whatever. We're testing these on women and keeping women in mind. It was all done on men with the male phenotype being prioritized, and as a result, across the board, we may experience side effects on any given medication because we just don't know how they impact them because no one's checked.
That law, by the way, they started, sorry, I'm interrupting you, but about that testing, there's a law that they put into place that they have to do some form of testing. It doesn't have to be early. It's not required to be early testing, but they have to do some testing on women for medications. That was only put into place in like 1987, by the way. And it doesn't have to be through all parts of the testing process. It just has to be at some point in the process. That also doesn't include pregnant women. So there are medications that there are people that might live on medications, get pregnant, and we have no idea how they're going to affect them. Sorry, continue.
No, I mean, that was pretty much all I was going to say. The last thing I was going to add is when we think of great minds in history, right? it's dominated by men, right? Whether we're looking at philosophers in Roman times or whatever. But as you move into the more recent past, literally as you see the constraints on women relax, you see an exponential increase of great women thinkers in whatever field we're looking at. I'm most familiar, of course, with the natural sciences, but one that came to mind the other day was like, or was something that was new to me that I read the other day was that Mozart's sister, Mozart was considered by their tutor when they were both young kids to be as talented, if not more talented, than the child prodigy Mozart. Mozart went on to independently create all these incredible symphonies or whatever. I don't know the music terminology. And Mozart's sister was married off and taught piano for the rest of her life. She wasn't allowed to compose. So what I'm trying to say is that it's like, imagine the amount of muted individuals that have been suppressed through the years because their society in which they lived didn't allow them to do great things. Hatshepsut, an incredible pharaoh who was a woman, right? She was a pharaoh in ancient Egypt. She brought in peace and prosperity during the dynasty in which she ruled, reestablished trade with Punt, right? And afterwards, they tried to erase her name from history because she was a woman. And yet her reign is thought of during that kingdom. I believe it was Old Kingdom Egypt, but it might have been Middle Kingdom, as incredibly prosperous. So we see this motif repeat itself over and over and over again, which is when you let women into the space improves, because it turns out when you suppress 50% of people from being in a space, you're going to lose out on a lot of awesome minds and a lot of awesome thinkers, and that sucks. And it's for that reason that having a patriarchal structure is bad for society. It's bad for our species. And in the same way, a matriarchal society that would suppress men would also be bad. So the best thing to do is to do away with one gender is better than the other and say, let's allow everybody to give it their best shot and go for an egalitarian society. That's all we're saying, John. Like, we're not saying that, men need to be thrown in jail or something like that.
Yeah. And just we're coming up on our time. So, John, I would love to continue this conversation with you, and maybe you can call back another time, but I want to give you just an opportunity to respond, and then we'll wrap up our call with you for now.
Yeah. Okay. So my thing is, it's not about the patriarchal or whatever, but all I said was we are here because we are here. It works, okay? Male got their physics, not just physics, but they got their own thing they're good at, and females are good at other things too. Okay, it's not, they're the same, but with the patriarchy, both benefit. That's the only point I have to make. Okay, everything I've heard so far is just male, like all these paid, what this emotions. That's the female part of the argument. Okay, we males don't deal with that. Okay, males are simple. Okay, they build,
John,
they provide, and
anger
that's
is
it.
an emotion? Do you think rage or anger is an emotion? I'm curious.
Yes, it is. Yes, rage.
Okay,
Yeah, but that's
every
how men.
war on
That's
planet
how men
Earth
are.
was sorted due to rage, which is
That's how men
that's
are,
the
though.
masculine emotion. Right, but you said that we're getting like it's emotion, but like I would argue that if you're going to pick a sex that is more emotional, it's going to be men, because
It's
they're really
men.
mad and it's hard to over it.
Here's my thing though. Everything on social media, you look at the whoever posts on there. The females are doing it the most. Men hide their emotions. Men try to hide their emotions.
Right, but
that's
I
how it is.
That doesn't mean that they don't have them. That means that they're hiding them
They
because
have
they're
them, but-
afraid of being shamed. And the reason they're afraid of being
No, they're
shamed
not.
is
They
because
they don't want to show it. They don't want to show they're weak. That's how
yes,
how
but
it is.
that's
Because
not, it's not
when you
weak
show,
to have emotions.
let me finish. When they show they're weak, not a lot of females would want them. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying?
That's not
I'm
true.
just trying to
That
get
is not true.
Yes, it
Like,
is.
two females right here telling you that's false, John. I'm a
That's
female.
not true.
I love emotional men. I think that's great. I
Me
want
too.
somebody who isn't so much of a baby that they can't express themselves to me. When I see a male, and to use the male-female terminology, right? Like when I see a guy that is emotionally stunted, he gets mad easily, he pops off. This is the kind of guy that would have accidentally started a tribal war if we lived 250,000 years ago. I don't trust him. I think this is the kind of guy
Yeah.
that would potentially get mad at
Yeah.
me. He would pop off at me. And if I'm living 250,000 years ago, you know, that's I'm SOL unless my sisters and female relatives want me mob them or something like that. But you know, I don't know. Like I find that to be not a good quality. And I'll speak for the my own generation here, right? As like in my experience, and you can tell me if I'm incorrect, Alyssa, right? But like I don't know a single woman who is looking for a guy that is emotionless, quote unquote.
Yeah.
I would
that's
agree. Not a desirable
Yeah.
in a mate.
Yeah, but if you look at social media though, they want guys to be sensitive. They want guys to be all kinds of stuff. That's what you see on social media. All these females crying where all the men are at. You know?
I've never.
You don't see men crying
exactly.
where are all the females.
I know the post you're talking about, and I'll tell you, John. You know, my Twitter timeline is hopelessly warped thanks to Elon's new algorithm, and the amount of men that I see on my timeline wondering where are all the women? Where are all the women that want to sit at home and cook for me, and but also go to work and provide dual income because no one can have a single income household in this economy, you know. But also they want them to be barefoot and pregnant, but also they want to make sure that these women are you know freaks in the sack or something like that. Like they want everything. They want what's the phrase? There's a phrase for it, Alyssa, where it's like they want a mommy who will also have sex with them is what I've seen it described as. Someone who will take care.
Yeah.
That's what I've seen from men on social media. Now maybe my timeline's messed up, so you know maybe that's just.
I saw someone.
The men are easy.
The men are complex like everybody else. Men are complex. Every human being is every human being is complex. Every human being has emotions and they deserve to have space. They deserve to be validated, and every human being deserves to be treated with respect. And we know that the patriarchy prioritizes respecting men. And that is not right. That's not how that goes. That doesn't make sense. It's not fair.
Prioritizing is bad. You shouldn't prioritize one over the other because masculine is good, feminine is good, men are good, women are good, everybody in between is good, and everybody deserves to be heard, regardless of what they are, who they are.
Yeah, but I understand. Everybody needs to be heard, but the patriarchy is here. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, but that's just
it is what it is because it is what it is because it came to that.
But John, do you not dream of something bigger? Let's dream big. Let's change it. Let's become egalitarian. Let's make it better for men and better for women, and not move over to somebody else being in charge. Let's fix it. Let's dream of a better world.
Okay. Check it out. You know that Canadian doctor, whatever his name is, the guy from Canada.
I don't know.
He says the more egalitarian you are, the more it shows. The more the differences between women and men differ.
Oh, I know what you're saying. They're saying that if you give them the choice, then they'll naturally move into their own category. You know what? I don't care.
Yes.
I think if men and women want to pour into their own,
then
they can do it.
If you don't care, then it will end up the same way it is right now.
I disagree.
They will go back the same way.
You'll see generalizations, but you will not see a patriarchy.
John, babe, if it were working, we wouldn't be having this conversation for 35 minutes. You wouldn't see it all over social media. You wouldn't see these conversations happening all over the place. It's not working. The women are not happy. We are not pleased. There are more women who are choosing to be single. nobody's happy. There are more women who are choosing to be single. Do you know every single year there is a drastic uptick in women who are no longer interested in dating just men and are starting to also date women. And I think that's partially because we're starting to care a little less about the patriarchal standard and are doing the things that we want to do, because at the end of the day, the reward is not really there anymore. We're still like, there's no reward in women participating in the patriarchy. And so every single year, less and less women are choosing to participate in it. If it were working, we wouldn't be having this conversation for 35 minutes. And ultimately, I think you should also, if you can, take a moment to reflect on two grown women telling you the patriarchy does not work for us. And you, a man who by the way that the patriarchy works, is given all of the prioritization and all of the comfort that you want in this system is given to men. And you're telling me that the system works. But of course you think the system works because the system is built for you. We are telling you the system is not built for us and we are not happy. And for you to continue to have the attitude that it does work and that everyone is happy shows that the patriarchy benefits you. Because you can still walk away from this conversation and continue to benefit from it, continue to tell everyone else that they're happy, and it's not going to matter. Your life goes on. But again, if I want to go and get a medical procedure done, like getting an IUD, I'm going to have to do that with no pain medication. If I want to get certain medications that are covered by insurance for men, they are not covered in insurance for me. I'm going to have to pay more for my hygiene products. I'm going to have to get paid less at my job than a man who's doing exactly the same thing.
May I interrupt you? May I interrupt you?
Sure.
Yeah, because all that again is for your side, the female side, right? The what do you call this? The feminine hygiene and stuff like that. They're different than the men's. The men's don't need those stuff. Okay. Now here's the thing. I never said the patriarchy is better or whatever. Okay. I said it is what it is. Everything brought us to this. Okay. I never said anything is better.
Don't you want something better?
I said it came to this.
Do you want something better, Don? Do you want something better? Do you want something better than this?
You can, like I said, if you can step up your game and not feminine or whatever, if you can step up, because I believe not everyone is the same, okay? Not everyone is the same.
I would argue
hold on. Let me finish. Let me finish my point.
Whoa.
Because you keep it, and let you talk for like 2 minutes, 3 minutes at a time. I can't write them all the time. Okay? You're making me lose my thoughts. Okay? I said men and females are different. The men are good at some parts. Females are good at some parts. Okay? Some men are smart. Some females are smarter than the men. Okay? Now, unless you want to bring something up that is better than what we have right now, step up the game. Let's see it.
John,
because all I see in social media is women crying, and all it is nothing really. When you want to say equality, you just want to pick some of the stuff that
John,
men
that
have.
is not what I would do. Now, I feel like there's a little bit of non-appreciation for the slight power imbalance that is going on here, right? Like, you know, I appreciate not wanting to be interrupted. I think part of the problem is that we're calling over the phone, and the delay makes it feel like you're being interrupted more than you are. When, you know, if we were having this conversation in person, we'd probably have a much easier back and forth. But at the same time, you know, it is one of those situations where when you call into a show, it typically is, it's a 2 versus 1 situation here. It's going to favor the hosts. Now, again, like, All Alyssa and I are saying is that we are hoping and working towards something better. Now, I can't speak to the people that you're seeing on social media. I don't know who they are. I don't know what they're saying. I don't know why they're saying it. All I know is that what Alyssa and I do and what the women in my life do is they work towards this goal. Every couple I know has a man and a woman or two women or two men or whatever working towards what they want in life, which is a more egalitarian society that benefits more people. It's how we vote. It's how we live our life. It's what we teach our children, right? So when you're saying, okay, go out and do it, baby, I am. I live it. I live that truth. I live that life. And I preach that to whoever will listen because I think it makes the world better for everybody. That's what we're saying here, right? I don't know why, you're saying do better, done, right? So I'm wondering why, from your perspective, if we're sitting here offering on a silver platter an alternative, something new to try, why you wouldn't be on board with it. And you said, okay, like patriarchy is what's worked so far. Again, as somebody who studies human evolution, right? That's what I'm getting my PhD in. I'm a third-year PhD student studying biological anthropology. My master's was in primatology. I can tell you that from the natural world, that's not the only system that exists out there, nor is it arguably even the dominant system, that being patriarchy. Now, how did we get here today? Like with our modern civilization, with all this, with this technology? I would propose to you a counter thought here, which is that this is where we got with 50% of the population working pretty dang hard. Men in positions of power and in academia and in the halls of progression, moving humanity forward. Would we not be much further along if we'd had 100% of the guns blazing this entire time? And would that not be better for society? Especially given that the second that we started letting women again into these various fields, whatever they may be, we started to see the exponential growth further steepen that growth curve because you got more brains working on it. I mean, the point of the matter is there are areas factually where women get the short end of the stick, culturally and legally. There are factually areas where men get the short end of the stick, like legally and culturally. There are factually fewer areas where men get the shorter end of the stick than women get the shorter end of the stick. This is a vestige of the society that put us where we are today. So what I'm saying is, let's just remove anybody getting the short end of the stick. And the only way that that's going to happen is moving towards egalitarianism, not patriarchy, not matriarchy. I don't think that's controversial, but I also think that we've been on this one call for a hot minute. So John, I'm going to thank you very much for your time. I apologize if things got passionate, but we do, I presume, have other callers on the line. And what I will say to you is that I've enjoyed this exchange, and I hope that you will call back next time Alyssa and I are both on this call, because I would like to continue it, hopefully to its termination point.
I've had John on mute, just because I was also getting a lot of feedback from his line too. So John, if you're still listening, we appreciate you calling and having this conversation with us. I'm going to drop your line, but call back another time, because this is a conversation that I think could definitely continue, and we could both really learn a lot. So thank you for calling. And we actually, because we're already past our little time, we have no more calls right now for tonight, but I think everyone can just, now that John is off the line, we're going to just take like a 2 seconds of silence.
Decompress.
My ears feel so much better. After a while, I was getting like...
You have the headphones,
oh,
dude. I don't know how you do it. I know there's a controversial thing where it's like, why don't we mute more? Or it's like, classic. You got two women hosting and the male guest is trying to overtalk them, like classic meme. But like, honestly, I think that John would have just kind of tuckered himself out. Like I wanted to hear what he had to say, because Alyssa and I both know that there's no grounds to hold that position. We can let him talk, and then we can mow down those arguments. I think that
right.
better way of handling it. Personally.
Anytime I hear conversations like that, the thing that I think of the most is, honestly, like, he doesn't really even, I don't think he really even knows and understands the way that the patriarchy also hurts him. Like, I just kind of like I'm sad for him in a lot of ways, because there's a whole like host of things that he could have access to if he kind of like let that go. And he's not really in a space to do that, but maybe he'll call back and we'll be able to talk about that further, and I don't know, help him kind of unravel some of that, because it's unfortunate to live in a space where you feel like your only option is to be an alpha male type of thing. And we know that's yeah, like that sucks, and we know that that's not what people want. And it's also, I mean, to have the reasoning be because that's what men acting that way is the way that women want. It's like, first of all, literally no it's not. Literally no it's not. Also, more and more women are dating women every year, so I don't know what you want to do with that information. If I'm being mature, I'm thinking, okay, we're just getting more like we want to explore. But if I'm being immature, I'm saying because we literally don't want to date the men anymore, because what are you doing?
Well, and I don't know what literature there is to back this up. Like, again, I like to support my arguments with the literature, and like this is an area that I'm not very familiar with, so I'm really working off of like, oh, this article I read, and then the article was like, oh, I saw someone tweet about it, right? But my understanding is that overall, based off of surveys, it seems like, big asterisk, it seems like the standards of women have gone up quite a bit because they've gotten a lot of freedoms that they didn't previously have, right, over time. And so, you get more freedoms, you have more wiggle room, you can take more action when it comes to the decisions that you're making. And so as a result, the standards have gone up, whereas because men have not gained additional rights that they didn't previously have, but have mostly stayed the same, their standards haven't changed. And so as a result, you see a lot of lonely men, right? Because there are a lot of women who won't accept what they previously might have accepted in like the 50s and the 60s. And that actually just sucks. That sucks because, instead of saying like what we need to address is when we're addressing things like the male loneliness crisis, which I do think exists. I think a lot of people are lonely today. What we need to be teaching people like from the ground up is that it's like, don't treat the person you're going after as like or like wanting to get with as like this quarry that is to be, captured, right? It's like you're treated like a relationship. You should meet people, right? Treat the person that you're going to be with like a partner that you would want to tackle life with, regardless of the gender or sex of anybody involved, right? It's like this stuff is not that complicated. And I think a lot of these, I feel really bad for a lot of like the red pill guys out there, because they're being sold this lie that if we can just return to tradition, then you'll have the doting wife, barefoot and pregnant, and you'll have exactly what you want. And it's like, no, unfortunately, that is a fantasy. And if we want to move forward as a species, we have to address these loneliness crises and these various social issues that are facing us today with compassion and empathy and from an egalitarian perspective that's going to benefit everybody. Because like the same guy, like I know John is the type of guy who would be like, ooh, but what about in the courts where the courts are stacked against men? And it's like, the reason why family courts favor women is because of the same patriarchal bullshit that you were just saying needs to be instituted, because judges assume
that you created.
It's like you assume that because the mother is a woman that they must be a better parent or innately a better parent. Okay, no, that's dumb. You can't make an assumption like that, right? And it's like you're railing against the same thing we're railing against, which is these goofy assumptions that that complementarianism should be instituted at a legal and cultural level, which is ridiculous. If you want to live your life like that, you want to do the trad wife, trad husband thing, whatever, like be my guest. But don't, like you said earlier, don't impose that on me and everybody else. It's bad for society if you implement that at large, I think.
Yeah, as one of my best friends would say, goofy bozo behavior. And
silly goose award.
Silly goose award. And the last thing I'll say about this is I think part of it is also women are no longer in a place where we need to depend on men for anything. Like we don't need to have a man to get a credit card, a house, or bank account. And we now also are in a situation where, because of the way the state of the economy, most households with children still require both people to be working. So it's not a situation where you have a stay-at-home parent for most households. So what is the advantage then? Unless I've seen people say this on social media, and I love this. If you're not bringing me peace, more peace than I would have than when I'm by myself, then I don't really. What's this for? What's this for? Because I have a great time by myself. I love it.
It's like you don't want to, like, you don't want, you know, I'll speak to somebody who, like, you know, I'm a cis heterosexual woman to a guy, right? Like, I'll speak from my perspective. My husband is my partner. He's my best friend. You know, the reason we're married is because we make each other's life better, not because one of us subjugates the other and gets, you know, solely what they want out of the situation. That would be ridiculous. Why would anyone pick that, right? Like, that's so silly. The person you're in a relationship with should be someone who, like, improves your life, and vice versa. That's the whole point of getting in a relationship in the first place. Otherwise, why not just stay solo, right? Like, there's nothing that a person who's bad for you is going to give you other than strife. And, you know, we can internalize as much strife as we want. So
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Hey, it's Jimmy Snow here. I'm the executive producer on the line with a fun fact. Did you know 100% of the hosts of this channel enjoy eating? It's true. And if you would like to help contribute to their ongoing addiction, you can do so by going over to Patreon or becoming a channel member. There are show-specific, host-specific tiers. Those are awesome. But also, you can leave a super thanks with a special little highlighted comment. You can like, comment, and subscribe. All of those will help fill our whittle bellies. By the way, check out some of this content over here. Algorithm, what next?